So I've been waiting for Stephen A. Smith's response on Skip Bayless's departure from Undisputed, which is going to take place at the end of this summer. And when you look at the history of First Take, without Skip Bayless, Stephen A. Smith has said this countless times, he would not be in this position today with his career. There was a time where Stephen A. Smith wasn't working for ESPN, and Skip Bayless vouched for ESPN to bring him back. Now, two things can be true about Skip Bayless at the same time. His takes can be outrageous. The Tim Tebow takes, the LeBron James hating, the Luka Doncic slander. Now he's on to Caitlin Clark. We can disagree with Skip Bayless and say he can be nuts and just doesn't make any sense. However, when it comes to the business side of things and looking out for his friends, Skip does a good job here. Now, that doesn't absolve him from how things fell apart with Shannon Sharp. I get all that. I'm on that train as well. But two things can be true at the same time. You have a guy in Skip Bayless that really catapulted the idea of debating on a sports show to a whole new level. He brought in new guys that wanted to debate with him. When Stephen A. and Skip Bayless started this trend, you saw the shift on ESPN. They brought in other guys for the NFL, for the NBA, and it drew a lot of attention. And when Skip Bayless left First Take, then Stephen A. got more power and he got more control of the show. He changed things up. He brought in a rotation of different guests instead of just having the same person week after week. And that has changed things. And that's been really good for First Take when they were transitioning from Skip and Max Kellerman. Now, the one thing I don't like, and whether you agree or disagree, is how he treated Max Kellerman versus how he's treating Skip Bayless right now. Because I think how he threw Max Kellerman under the bus was just unnecessary. Because Max, he wasn't always correct with his takes, but some things did make a lot of sense. And Stephen A got really mad at him. I remember the Terrell Owens situation where he got so upset because Terrell Owens said that Max Kellerman was more blacker than Stephen A. And I know these are two totally different situations because Skip Bayless did help build his career and Max Kellerman didn't do that. However, at the same time, the way you treated him was a bit much to me. It didn't make any sense, especially after Max left. You're still talking about it and mention his name in just a negative way. Now I'm going to play the clip from Stephen A. Smith and I'll give you more of my thoughts.
It was reported yesterday by the New York Post that my former ESPN colleague, my friend Skip Bayless, will be leaving FS1's Undisputed at the end of the summer. Skip has been with FS1 since 2016 after spending 12 years at ESPN. He arrived at FS1 to co-host Skip and Shannon's Undisputed, a debate show with Pro Football Hall of Famer Shannon Sharp, who left the show last summer to join First Take. Various co-hosts include Rachel Nichols, Paul Pierce, Richard Sherman, Keyshawn Johnson, and Michael Irvin. They've sat alongside Skip Bayless since Shannon left. But as the reports have said, they've had some rating struggles. I'm not about to get into that. I'm not going to play that game. Skip Bayless and I have not spoken in a long time. He's on that side of the fence. I'm on this side of the fence. But as I've stated on many occasions, as I've stated months ago to Dan Le Batard, in response to Dan Le Batard and something that he had said in terms of me wanting to destroy Skip Bayless, he ultimately retracted that statement in fairness to him. I don't root against my colleagues and contemporaries, and certainly not my friends. I just root for me to be more successful. Being on First Take and wanting to be number one doesn't mean I wanted Skip Bayless to fail. Doesn't mean that I want to see him out of the business and out of the profession. And with the news coming down that he's departing from FS1, I have not called him. I'm not going to. Because I know what this moment must be like for him. They can put out all the stories that they want to. Skip Bayless has a boatload of energy, and Skip Bayless doesn't want to walk away from anything. He lives, eats, and breathes sports. I don't know anything. I haven't called and asked anybody anything. What I know is that there is no way on earth that I can imagine him walking away. And I was watching some folks talk the other day, and including Marcellus Wiley, our former colleague at ESPN. And he had mixed emotions because obviously he likes Skip, but doesn't like Skip's trolling tendencies throughout the years. But Skip was always nice to him. He's fond of Skip, et cetera, et cetera. So he had mixed emotions. There were others who expressed the same thing. For me, it's sadness. Because I can't imagine that this is a happy time for him. There's a lot of positive things going on in my career, in the place that I'm in. Skip Bayless has a lot to do with that. Who knows where I'd be had he not put me on First Take. Yes, we catapulted and we elevated and we became number one together, and that's true. But it doesn't happen if he doesn't push to make it happen. I'm not going to speak for Shannon Sharpe. He can do that on his own. But I will quote him and what he has said to me on numerous occasions. No matter what happened with him and Skip Bayless, he's not going to let 6 years be ruined by 6 months. Well, he's not going to let 6 months ruin what transpired between them over 6 years. It's real easy for folks to pounce on whatever their perception is of what happened with Skip and FS1. But what I would ask you to consider is the industry itself outside of sports. Think about what has transpired in this world. Think about how every team, every entity, every company, whatever it is that you want to pick and choose or whatever, the spin doctors, the PR departments and everything else, no matter what you say, there's always plausible deniability. We've diminished ourselves as a society to a point where you can have the facts right in front of you, and all that matters is the spin attached to those facts, depending on which side of the aisle you fall on any particular subject. So what has ultimately born from all of that is debate. It's different perspectives and different opinions coming out. And a lot of times what I think people miss when they're talking about this industry, they're talking about a Skip Bayless or me or somebody else and trolling and using words like that. Well, number one, you're forgetting history. You're forgetting that Skip Bayless was a columnist in LA and Dallas and Chicago and various other places, that he had a journalism career spanning decades. You're forgetting that although he would take the positions that he take, and yes, he was a bit excessive with Tim Tebow, and clearly excessive with LeBron James, and clearly excessive with various other things. You're forgetting what that bred. You're forgetting the fact that it opened the floodgates for others to debate him, for others to get their equal opportunity to provide their perspectives on certain matters so they could speak their piece and ultimately elevate their profile. You're forgetting the fact that ultimately it was able to breed a new line of work in business, creating business opportunities for all of us.
I thought the way Stephen A. Smith came across was very humble. He was gracious to Skip Bayless. He wasn't celebrating the fact he was leaving Undisputed. He just paid homage to somebody who helped his career. I thought that was pretty cool because I know there's a lot of negativity around Skip Bayless. I totally understand why, because of his takes. They're pretty wild. They can be outrageous at times. But let's not act like Skip Bayless didn't have a career before ESPN First Take. Stephen A. Smith pointed that out. He was a columnist in LA, Chicago, and Dallas. So it's not like he didn't put in the work to get these opportunities. We just don't like the fact he's usually wrong about a lot of his sports takes. At the same time, there are fans out there of Skip Bayless. Whether we want to admit that or not, there are people who actually like Skip, especially when it comes to the LeBron James haters out there who don't rock with LeBron. And he was one of them. He always criticized LeBron. He didn't always give him credit. And there are fans out there that probably rock with Skip because of that. Going a little bit deeper into this whole situation, without Skip Bayless, First Take isn't where it is right now. Let's just be honest. If Skip Bayless didn't have that debate with Stephen A. Smith, and I remember it as clear as day, back in, I think it was like 2010, they were having a debate about LeBron James. And this was like the startup of something special between him and Stephen A. Smith. They were talking about how LeBron James needs to get a title. That was like the perfect episode, and everything just took off. And what happened next? We got to see the show evolve from Skip and Stephen A. Smith. Let's not forget about Shannon Sharpe. Skip vouched for him on Undisputed. He wanted Shannon Sharpe. And at the beginning of Undisputed, Skip was the man, but as Shannon Sharpe got more reps in and he put in the work, he became the face of that show. So again, two things can be true at the same time. I don't agree with Skip Bayless's takes. I'm not a big fan of Stephen A. Smith. But I can at least acknowledge the fact that these two guys were successful. Skip played a big part in helping Shannon Sharpe and Stephen A. Smith build their careers. Nothing wrong with saying that. And hopefully Skip Bayless can find a new role or maybe ride off into the sunset. I don't know what's going to happen with Skip Bayless, but, wish the man the best. I'm not going to sit here and hate on him. He's been successful in the sports media. No matter how polarizing he is, people still talk about him. Even right now, he tweets about Caitlin Clark and people are reacting. We can complain and whine about his takes, but at the end of the day, you're still talking about Skip Bayless. That's what he wants you to do. I just thought it was cool that Stephen A. Smith just paid homage to Skip Bayless and recognized the fact without Skip Bayless, Stephen A. Smith doesn't have the career he has right now. Now, I said this on my last show when the news broke about Skip Bayless leaving Undisputed. Hopefully, he can find somebody that just retired from the NBA or maybe in the LeBron era to have a debate. Maybe you guys make a YouTube channel and you go back and forth. That would be really cool to watch. But we'll see how it all turns out. Hope you guys enjoyed this video today. Love to hear your thoughts on what Stephen A. Smith had to say about Skip Bayless. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.